Welcome to Thankful Thursday. Let me get this started and streaming in the various channels. Ugh, it doesn't want to cooperate with me. Let me go back here. Oh, it should be working. Let's go back to Facebook. I used to be able to stream directly into my group, and now I can only stream to my page. Okay, so I have to go in and manually share things. So let me just get that going. So that's done. Let's see. Okay. So I can close this and go on over to Instagram and go live there. Okay, you guys, welcome to Thankful Thursday on this rainy day in Charlotte, North Carolina. Um, I have been upstairs with all my new fabric that will debut at BU and ship in the fall. So I haven't been down here much at all, really. I actually have to spend some time today because that ruler that debuted at H&H, um, I need to write the directions for that ruler. But lots of things going on here. It's that time of year. I'm really excited about this upcoming project I have with OESD. I explain this to you guys. I'm gonna clean my glasses so maybe I can see because that would be good when you're quilting, right? Um, so there's this new project that we're gonna do next year through Bernina Dealers. Um, that I designed for OESD, and it's really, really cool. So you guys, Bernina dealers who are out there, make sure you come to my class in OESDs at Bernina University, and we'll tell you all about. Oh no, Eric, come here. Look at this. My glasses come apart, and you need to get this put together. I cannot see to put them together, so I have technical support behind there, but hopefully he'll get it because if not, I can't see well enough to quilt. That I will have to find a backup pair of glasses. So anyway, let me talk about this. Um, so if you're a Bernina dealer, please come to the class at Bernina University that OESD and I are hosting because you can find out how you can get this program. It's a really neat program. So that's what I'm working on today. So let's see here. I'm looking at this without uh, glasses, so I cannot see comments that well. Oops, here are my glasses. Thank you. Okay. I don't know why they come apart like that. I really need to go to the glasses store and ask because I can't see to put them back together when that happens. Okay, so let's talk about machines and events and things like that before we get into the lesson. So I was working on these overlapping circles or overlapping rings, sort of, the last session. So we will do that again today. And as far as the schedule goes for Thankful Thursdays, I have the sneaking feeling that I will cancel the next one. We'll wait and see until the third week in June to see if I cancel it, but it's right before Bernina University, and you know I'm always running late for that. So I have a feeling I cancel, but I'll let you know closer to that date. We will be on again in July where I'll show you all the new things that first week in July. Okay, so that's where you guys will see all the new things. So tune in for all over the US, and I'm sure we have some international people here today too. So thank you guys for coming. This is the broadcast I started doing after the pandemic, where I give you guys a little mini lesson of quilting live. If you are watching this as a recording, just realize if you have a burning question, there's no one there to answer it if you're not watching the live stream. So if you have a question, please come into my Facebook group to ask the question. And my Facebook group is Quilting with Amanda Murphy. I do membership maybe once a week, but there's some questions you need to answer. I don't care about your email, but I care about the other questions because it's how I tell you're not an advertising robot. So if you have live questions and you're watching this as a recording, please ask this as a separate post in my Facebook group so I see it because I do not go back and watch these. So Escondido, California. I'm going to be in California later this year. Um, if you are interested in buying a Bernina, whether it is a 990, a 7 series, a domestic of some sort, or a serger, or software, or the Q series, which is what I'll be demoing on here, I can give you $100 rebate in the US. It does come from Bernine of America. It's a check from Bernine of America. It takes about 2 months for a process, but you guys know the key with this is you have to contact me before um, before you buy. You cannot contact me after. I cannot backdate the card. So you have to contact me before you buy, and that's how you get the rebate. Same thing for Laura Stars, $7.99 and above. You contact me before you buy. Okay. Let's talk about live classes. I have to get it up because I don't even remember. Okay. I'm going to be at Bernina University, which is the dealer show, which Bernina dealers out there who are watching this, come and see my OESC class and come to my booth and see all the new stuff. I'm also teaching art and stitch and some other classes there, including one where I go over all my new products. July 24th to 26th, I'm doing an event at Sewing Studio in Hudson, Illinois. That's about 2 hours from Chicago. August 5th through 7th, Pine Needles in Rochester, Minnesota. August 22nd through 24th, World of Sewing in uh, Raleigh, North Carolina. We're going to try a brand new class there. That's exciting. Then we have, be it September 4th through 6th, Rain Tree in Alaska. My husband is super excited for Alaska. Super, super excited. I'm excited too, but I think he beats me in excitement on this one. Seems Like Home in Alaska, because Alaska's like his dream, right? Seems Like Home in Alaska is September 11th through 13th. Inspired to Sew, that's in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, September 7th, 18th through 19th. Mel's Sewing is in Anaheim, California, September 29th through October 1st. And then I go to Market and then Festival. The All my class signups are open for Quilt Festival, you guys, in Houston. That's October 8th through 12th. Um, all of them are open now. I have no idea what is full, but usually they fill fast. So if you're interested in taking an all-day class from me, Festival is a place to do it. We will be on sit-down cues, but I do teach how to modify what you're learning for your domestic machine, so no worries there. Um, let's see. The other ones, I don't think they're announced yet. I'm looking forward in my calendar. Yep, I don't think they're announced yet. Okay, so let me go back to um I don't know why Instagram looks like it's frozen. That's crazy. Uh is okay, I'm going to go back. I'm looking at your questions. Is the OASD embroidery for the long arm? It might be for the long arm. It might be for the domestic. It might be for both. I really can't say at this moment. Let's see. Good morning from Seattle, Washington. Hello from Seattle, Washington. I can't seem to Amanda assumes much. Okay. Mary has a question about let's see. uh, uh, different free motion patterns to try. You just have to kind of keep practicing. There's not one to try over another because things that are easier for one person might not be easier for another person. Um, I struggled for a long time with open swirl patterns, and I finally have it and I can do it evenly. But for some reason, that took me much longer than petals. Petals were easier for me. So it just depends. It depends. It's different for everyone. So you just got to keep practicing patterns, and eventually you get enough control. All patterns are easier. Let's see here. And I saw you guys. Okay. Okay. So, uh, next thing I was going to tell you, the kit behind me is Union Square. I only have it in the daytime color story, but I have a few kits. So I wanted to bring up fabric, and especially because there's a lot of independent quilt shops who watch this broadcast, okay? And I'm going to try to get the word out to them on this stuff. But I Janice, I'll answer your question in a minute about the securing stitches. Uh, in the past, I have ordered a very little amount of fabric, like maybe a 15 bolt collection of all my collections, cut some kits and some extra bolts, and cut some kits, just guessing what people would want. and for the people who don't have quilt shops near them. So not a huge amount of kits, just some amount of kits. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop carrying kits after the kits that I have sell out. And the reason why is because one, I'm one person and it's taking up so much of my time when I have to cut kits. I'm not set up to be a quilt shop. I had someone email me yesterday and be like, can I have a yard of this and a yard of this? I'm not like set up for that. I cut a few kits and then I take whatever's left of the collection and do some bundles and it's done. But I'm behind on that. Like I have 3 or 4 collections upstairs totally that I need to cut into bundles that I don't have cut into bundles. And I think my time is better served, like maybe getting some classes done, or I just don't think it's a good use of my time, compounded by the fact, throwing rollers here, that, hello, Joanne. Joanne has her daughter there today, so hello, Jordan, too. Compounded by the fact that I always seem to order the wrong thing. Like there'll be always a run on one kit, but I've cut all these kits, right? Or I've ordered based on the kits, and I always order the wrong thing, and then I'm stuck with kits. And so it's really it doesn't make sense for me. I'm going to let the quilt shops do that. So here's the hitch on the quilt shops doing it. Like when my BU collection comes out, closer to September when it ships, I can ask Benartex to send me a list of the shops that bought direct from them. And I can publish that list on my blog for you guys, to consumers to see. My problem there is that a lot of shops don't buy directly from Benartex. So all the international shops, like my Australian friends or my New Zealand friends or people in Europe, they buy through distributors, and I don't have access to distributor information. So here's what I'd ask you guys. Shops out there, if you didn't buy directly from Benartex, like if you buy my BU collection and you didn't buy directly from Benartex, please let me know so that when I post the blog post, like this next collection is available at these shops, it's a more complete list. Because I don't have access to a complete list because that's not how this industry works. It goes through distributors. So if I want to keep a list of the shops that stock any one collection, and if I publish the blog post and you forgot to contact me, just contact me and I'll edit the blog post. Okay. I'll edit it saying this next collection is carried at these shops. And if you're not on the list, don't get mad at me because you got to contact me if you didn't buy directly from Benartex. Okay. So I'm going to try to see if I can get shops contacting me, because what I don't want to happen, if I allow everyone to post links, my whole Facebook group will become a marketplace, and I don't want that to happen. So instead, I want to do a post that has all the shops that are carrying that fabric. And hopefully we can get this going. We can kind of get into a rhythm of the shops are like, oh, if you buy my thing at BU, tell me so I can add you to the list. Okay. So that's how we're going to work it going forward, because I need time because I'm always behind. There's a lot of things that I've wanted to do. Joanne knows that I've been wanting to do. Um, and I haven't been able to get to. And I don't think it's the best use of my time to be carrying all the bolts upstairs, cutting kits, bringing them back downstairs, making I just wouldn't leave that to the shop. So that's how it's going to happen. I'll still stock my patterns. I will stock kits and I still have a few of that color story left. That's a cool quilt because it's made mostly with panels. You can't see the borders here, but the borders are made with panels. Right? The flying geese are pieced, but the center is a panel. Okay. Okay, I'm going back and looking at questions. Will announce the project you're presenting to dealers at BU ahead of time. No, I will not. I will tell you guys, you'll hear on my thing in July. Because my whole life is non-disclosure agreements. So no, I'm not going to talk about any I'm not going to talk about exactly what I'm working on, but I will tell you guys in July, and I will tell you how it's going to work, and I will tell you when it will be coming out. You guys remember, it's so funny because 10 years ago, there was a very different calendar for, like, you could keep what you showed to shops ahead of what you showed to consumers. And now everyone kind of knows everything. So the minute something's announced, all the consumers want it, and we have to realize, like, there's a delay, right? If I announce that, like, still the yardage hasn't been bolted, still, and actually in the case of OESD, um, I'm filming some things and the filming won't be done when it's announced. So I will tell you guys things in July. That doesn't mean you'll be able to get them in July. Does that make sense? But I will tell you then what everything is. I'll tell you the new rulers. I'll tell you, like, all that stuff will be out there. Um, I cannot talk about anything. Um, I can't talk about anything right now. Okay? So we're going to teach you how to quilt instead. Now, some of you may remember, I'm going to gulp my coffee for a minute. Joanne, this coffee is so good. Joanne doesn't like coffee. I love coffee. Joanne and I have very different eating preferences. So we always joke if there's anything we both don't like or we both like. Um, but good thing we agree on quilting, right? Okay, so I'm not showing you the right end. Do you guys remember last week I showed you how to do this with semicircle rulers to kind of create a meandering path around this panel? And this panel actually comes in a dark color story too. It comes on a navy ground with blues and purples. This is the cityscape circle panel. That type of thing, like my panels, my ruler panels, I'll continue to stock those because those can be very hard to find. I will continue to stock those. I just am not going to always stock kits. So I hadn't even told Joanne that the other night. Okay, so see that? Okay. I thought I'd do a fill, and I thought I'd teach you guys to do a couple different types of fill, but I'd end up on a feather because what I want to explain to you um, is kind of how feathers work. So when you have a feather that's going around an outer curve, like a corner of a quilt, you're going to have a lot of plumes that you need to fill that area. Whereas if you have a feather that's an inner curve, okay, an inner curve, there's going to be less plumes because you have less space to fill. Does that make sense? So I thought what would be interesting to do. Oh gosh, no, I don't. Eric, call Katrin and tell her I'm live streaming. Um, I put on do not disturb, but okay. Let's see. So back to that inner curve and outer curve. You're going to have a different amount of feathers. And so I thought when this pathway is kind of undulating on an outer curve versus an inner curve, um, it might be interesting to see what happens with the feathers. It's a good case in point. So I'm going to do that without a ruler, and then I may even try it with a ruler for those of you who are nervous about doing it without a ruler. Okay. Um, so, uh, no, Mary Joanne does not. She used to live close to me, but she does not live close to me anymore. She lives like 3 hours away. But, um, but she's under a cone of silence because she sees almost everything I work on. So, because a lot of times it's really good. It's really good to have a person, um, who hasn't been looking at things for months to have like a fresh perspective. So like when I design all my quilts, they're designed digitally before I have fabric. And it, it, I actually put the prints in the quilts so I can envision it. And on the commercial side of things, like I always want to do complex things, but it's not good to have all complex things. So I try with my patterns to have, some for applicators, some for people who like to piece, some for beginners. Like I try to have a good range. And I would say Joanne is much more tuned into me um, with what's happening in quilting trends and different groups, etc., I tend to just put blinders on and go ahead with what I'm doing because I don't want to ever copy someone, you know, not deliberately, of course, but I don't want to copy someone. So I tend to have blinders on until the point I'm doing quilts. And so I'll show her a quilt and she'll be like, yeah, and that you might want to think about using this technique because it's really hot right now, etc. So she is a good sounding board. Also, she's much more left-brained than I am, which I am so right-brained. It's kind of crazy. So it's always good to have someone else who reads through things, etc. Let's see. I put it on Do Not Disturb. I'm just making sure that nothing came through. Okay. Okay, so now go back to OBS. As I said, I thought we'd talk about like spines and how to work around them. And when I first start, I'm going to do it without a ruler because I think you can see it better. I wish I had brought down my 73 foot, but I didn't. I'm going to actually put on the standard foot. And that does mean that when I want to use a ruler, I'm going to have to stop, right? But I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to start with the standard foot. I would usually use my 73 foot, which is the open toe foot with the adjustable height for this, but it's upstairs because of some of the stuff I was doing upstairs. So, okay, we're going to start at the very bottom of one of these channels. So, and you're going to excuse the fact that I have not had a manicure and my nails look really, really bad. Okay. So I'm putting on my red gripper rings. So these are the gripper rings, the Bernino gripper rings. You can buy them from your Bernina dealer. Okay. And I'm going to start in the channel and kind of go around. Now, one of the things that you learn to do when you quilt on a frame is you learn to quilt motifs in all directions. So when I first did feathers, I learned on domestic, and I always like to stitch up and away from me. So I'd start with the base of the feather toward me and the point away and stitch up and out. But when you're on a frame, you can't rotate your fabric. Of course, on a frame, the really nice thing is you don't have the weight of the fabric, right? But on a frame, you cannot rotate the fabric. So you learn to make motifs in all directions. And that is something that takes a little bit of time. I'm going to be not rotating my fabric as I stitch around these channels, because if this was a big quilt, that would be a real pain. Oh, one thing about this panel in particular, there's no divisions between the panels. So on my website, I think I sell 2 yards cuts of it. That's 3 repeats because each repeat is 24 inches, but there's no division. So it could be like a baby quilt, right? Okay. So I am not going to rotate the fabric, which is something you've got to practice when you're making feathers. Again, I learned to do that because I have a frame and I kind of was forced to do it. But on a frame, you don't have the weight of the quilt. So it's a trade-off, right? Okay. Okay. So I'm going to force it to focus. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is going around this whole channel. Okay. And I'm going to start with the spine being the inner part of the circle. And as I come around, right, and travel over here, it's going to become the outer part of the circle. Lots of you just tuning in. Okay, so it's going to become the outer part of the circle, but I'm going to start with it being the spine being the inner part of the circle. So someone asked me something about the securing function. The securing function, I'm going to explain this. Oh, I never put down my foot pedal. Okay, what they're asking about. Oh, okay. Okay. What they're asking about with the securing suction is that function right there. So on a Q series, you can program the foot pedal to do different things. And here it's set on what Bernina calls the securing function. And what that means is it will do continuous stitches if I hold down the foot pedal. But if I just hit it once, it does one full stitch and brings the presser foot back up again. I do not use this function a lot because if you're using rulers and you one time do the securing function, but you just hit it once, the foot comes up, and I think it's a good way to get a ruler crash. There are some people, so I never use this if I was doing ruler work. Um, I could use it if I wasn't using rulers. I'm just not in the habit of it because I use rulers so much. So what I use this for is when I bring my bobbin thread up, because as I said, when you push the heel once, it does one full stitch rotation. And what's inconsistent here is the knot icon on a domestic Bernina does something entirely different. It does stitch, 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 clip your threads if you have it set a certain way. Yeah, Missy, I never look at the bobbin. My bobbin indicator is always blinking right at me all the time. I never use it. It's just when I run out of bobbin thread, I replace it. This is not like a domestic machine in that there's no sensor. So it thinks it has no thread, but I don't even notice it because I just wind a new bobbin when I need it. Okay. So I do not tend to use that. Now, if I'm in BSR1, it loves to do continuous stitches in BSR1. So I can get those tiny stitches in BSR1. If I was doing ruler work and I was in BSR2, it does not do the continuous stitches. So then to get tiny stitches, I tend to move it up on the screen. And as I said, if I'm using a ruler, I don't like to use this for continuous stitching because if I hit it just once, the foot comes up and then I'm down on a ruler. So personally, I don't use it that much. I'm going to quilt the feathers in BSR1, okay? And I'm going to actually put it, and I'll probably go into manual at some point because I like stitching in manual, but I'm going to put it up. These are pretty small feathers, so I'm going to put it up at 12 stitches per inch. And I'm going to move up my idle speed, which is my continuous stitching speed, because that's my preference, okay? So I'm going to now refocus this camera, and I want to get pretty close in. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring up my bobbin thread. And as I said, I do that with that heel button just once. Okay, so I have both threads and I hang on to them as I get started. And because I'm in BSR1, if I just move my hands slower at the very beginning, um, it's going to make tiny stitches because I'm in BSR1. See, it wants to, like, if I just move my hands slower at the beginning, and I make this partial feather, okay? And then I come to the top of the feather, and I come back in. And now I travel up the spine a little, and come out, and bounce off, and come back in. And I have my machine lights off, because they can wash out the fabric for the camera. I would actually prefer to have my machine lights on because the stitch regulator lights are really more distracting with them off. Okay, so back down in. And so what gosh, I took all my snips upstairs. These are paper scissors. Oh no, I have one up there. Okay, so I go up the spine. I don't have to go very far up the spine. And the reason I don't have to go very far is because the feathers are on the outer point of the curve, right? So I can fit a lot of feathers in relative to the spine length. So do you see, they're all made in pairs. Now, I'm just going to show you as I go around some other fills you could do for these channels if you were not confident on feathers. Okay, so I could definitely just do loops, right? Loop in. And this would give a very similar texture. And what you'll notice here, if I really get going, is that the loops on the outside of the circle are farther apart than the loops on the inner part of the circle, right? Because that's just what a circle shape is like. So what I'm saying here is that these are closer together than those. Do you see that? Just a little bit, but that's because there's less distance around the inner part of the circle than around the outer part of the circle. Okay? So that's one thing that I could do. And if, I wouldn't have had to do these kind of like rings that are overlapping. This could just be a solid circle ring, and the same thing is true. Okay, so um, another thing I could do, of course, is ribbon candy. And then if I'm doing ribbon candy, let's see me try to figure this out while I'm talking. The little diameter that I'm going around on the inner part is actually a little smaller than the outer. So I think when I come up to the top of a diagonal line, I think about going around kind of a semicircle. And the bigger the ring, the more intense this effect is, that the inner part is actually a little smaller. This is such a small space that I'm actually making my ribbon candy touch, right? So that would be another way of filling this. But do you see how this is bigger than that? I don't, it's just a subtle difference, but that's just what happens around a circle. So I'm going to go back to doing a feather. And if I was doing this as a finished quilt, I probably would choose one or the other design and keep going with it. I wouldn't be switching between the designs. So do you see here? I'm back to making my feathers. Okay, so now the way this curve goes, okay, um, the way this curve goes, now my spine, which is on this side, right, is going to be the longer portion, right? When I over here or over here, the spine was on the shorter or the smaller circle. Now, when I undulate over here, the spine's on the outer portion of the circle. And that means that I'm going to have less plumes than when the plumes are in the outer curve because there's less space. Do you see here? And it also means when I travel up my spine to start the next set of plumes, I'm going to have to travel up farther because I have all this space to cover with the spine. I have a longer distance of the spine. Okay. See, a lot of you are going to Anaheim, California. I've never been to Anaheim, California before. Okay. So now up and out. And now here's where I have to travel farther up to get to my branching off point because now I'm on the outer part of that circle. And this is what it takes to quilt feathers and corners as well. I wanted you to really kind of understand the thing about the distances before I switch to using rulers. So back down in, and then I have to travel farther than I did here. Here I barely had to travel at all. But because I'm now on the outer part of the circle curve, this is kind of fun. I should have one of my own. This would be a cool quilt to do over a 2 yard by 42-inch piece of fabric. That one wasn't that good. I don't like that, but I also won't rip it out. So let me show you what I don't like about it. See how it's like a little flat there? That bothers me. But not enough to rip out, because I have a lot of projects to do upstairs. Okay, so you see how that works? So there's a lot more spine distance here than there was there. Does that make sense? Yeah, Joanne's coming to Mel's. I think she's my classroom monitor, which will be very exciting for me, right, Joanne? We, I will drink Joanne's coffee in the morning. Okay. I will also eat. I will eat your salads. I'll eat your salad for you because Joanne doesn't like salad. And meanwhile, I love salad, but I hate potatoes. I hate potatoes. There's nothing worse than getting to a dealer and seeing a potato bar because everyone sleeps, but also I hate potatoes. Okay, so now as I come around here, it's going to change again. Now the spine's on the inner circle. So now I'm not going to have to travel as far to go up the spine, right? I barely have to travel at all. Okay, does that make sense to you guys? Okay. Um, I think, oh, you could also do loops in this space. Let me do loops and then I will switch and do rulers. I guess if I was doing loops, you could do like letter E, letter L, or all letter L's. This type of thing does not have to be perfect because it's about the texture, right? You're welcome for eating your salads anytime. I will always eat a salad. As long as you eat my potatoes. The problem is neither of us like watermelon. Yuck, yuck, yuck. I'm watermelon. Okay, so this is cut off. There's no fabric here, so I'm just going to go over here. Actually, let's change feet and do this with a ruler. Okay. I'm not going to bring up my thread. I'm just going to clip my threads the traditional way. Just okay. So now we'll change to a ruler foot. I have the 72S foot here. I have a 96 foot. I think I'm going to put on. Maybe I'll put on the 96 foot. Okay. The reason I didn't put on the S foot is I have a feeling I'm going to be going back that way a lot, and sometimes the thread slips out of the S foot. So if I have a thing where I'm going to be traveling back in one direction a lot, which is right now I would be, I will not. I will not use the ruler. I'm going into BSR2. I'm going to do some tiny stitches to begin, and I need to find a feather ruler. So bear with me with one. I brought down my feather bag thinking I'd do this last week, and I never got to it. So, um, if this, okay, so here's where you're not going to always have the right size when you're using a ruler. It's going to be more perfect when you do it with the ruler in terms of your plume shapes will be more consistent, but it also is going to take longer. So it's a trade-off. So I think probably this is the best size to use because this, I mean, you have to keep in mind our stitching is going to be a 1/4 inch in it from the edge. That's going to be a really tiny plume. This is actually pretty good, but I'm still going to have to be careful not to go over the edge. So I had those tiny stitches and then I changed back down to 12 stitches per inch. So that was an instance where I really didn't use the securing stitch. I changed it on the screen. So I'm doing the same thing here, but here's what you'll note. You kind of have to fudge it a little. That straight spine line isn't going to lie exactly where you want, right? And then we have to move around. That was not placed very well. Let me try again. So I'm using the kind of curved side of the ruler to kind of help me go up the spine, you know? So here's, now I'm going to an outer curve, so I'm going to have to travel further up the spine. So I travel a little further up and then I hook this on. It's not going to be exactly the right size. So do you see how I'm kind of angling it because of the curve itself? So I had to go a little further up there and I hook on the ruler. And what I want to see, let's see if you guys can see it. Well, it really doesn't want to rotate that well. I want to see that that previous plume is sticking up at least a 1/4 inch. That's what I'm looking for. So up and over, come to the top, come back in. And sometimes you'll even have to stop and kind of move the ruler middle of the way because you don't have every size of ruler, right? I need to make sure that my other plume's sticking out. And I would say that these are going to be more consistent, but you guys see that it's actually taking me longer. I like once you get, see, let's look at this. That's going to be more consistent than the ones I did by hand, but it takes longer, right? So it's a trade-off. Okay. Okay, did I change my stitch length on BSR2? When I started, I was at 18 or 19 stitches per inch just for maybe a 1/2 inch or so. And then, that was when I started the feathers. And then I came back down to 12 stitches per inch. This channel isn't very big. So I thought 10 stitches per inch just looked too chunky, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see. Uh, I am going to go back and see if you guys have any questions. So, because we're coming to the end of what I was going to show you today, if I'm going to quilt a little more just so you guys see it. And then I'm going to look up and see if there's any more questions. So if you have any more quilting questions, please ask me while I'm still on live. Okay. So I'm going to give it, and this recording will be up for a few weeks. Okay. So now let me change my camera just so you guys see it a little more. So, okay. So just ignore that line, right? That was when I marked. I probably should have erased that before we got on live today. Okay, so you can see I'm going up and out, back to the top, and then come back down in, right? And of course, if you wanted to, you could also do like a loose feather, a different style feather. It's not my preference, but a lot of times beginners prefer do this because they don't want to backtrack. And, that's fine too. As long as that's all consistent, you could totally do this. You could make them skinnier or fatter, right? That's fine too. Because from a distance, you're still getting a textural fill. It doesn't really matter what sizes. Okay, so someone's asking me how, I'll come back to the question about one or two. Someone's saying how to secure stitches when ending. Well, I basically stitch, I'm in BSR2 right now, so I changed it up to about 18 stitches per inch. I do a little bit of stitching. Then I hit the heel button once. That brings up both the needle and the presser foot. And I grab onto that thread. So if you're on a domestic machine, remember to bring the presser foot up because if you don't, your tension discs are closed and it's really bad for the machine to be yanking thread through closed tension disc. So now I'm going to do one more stitch, which on a Q series, I do the heel again and it does needle down, needle up, presser foot up. On a domestic, you would push needle down, which would bring the foot down, then needle up, then presser foot up. And so then when I grab on those two threads, that's my bobbin thread. And that's where I cut it. Okay, and so then it's secured from those short, tiny stitches that I did before I ended. New to my sit down, how do I know when to choose BSR 1 or 2? Well, I'd say if I'm doing the difference between BSR 1 and 2, BSR 1 loves to do continuous stitches. So if you stop the motion of the fabric, it will keep stitching, which can be really good because it can get you a crisp corner, or it can be really bad because you don't move and you get 6 or 7 stitches and eventually pierce your thread. So it depends on your movement. In general, if I'm free motioning a design with corners, I do like BSR1. I don't tend to sit in one place forever. If you sit there while the sixth stitch gets stitched in that place and maybe that's time to turn it to BSR2 because BSR2 will hover and wait for you. It won't do those continuous stitches. So I would say I always have BSR2 for ruler work because I don't want to get continuous stitches happening when I move my ruler. So I always have BSR2 for ruler work. In general, I'd say I use BSR1 if a design has corners or free motion design, but not always. If I'm having a day where I get a lot of stitches in one place, I do turn it to BSR2. So um, that is it. And if you're in BSR2 and you don't move the fabric at all, nothing's going to happen. It's waiting for you. So BSR1 will stitch continuously as long as you have the foot pedal down. Okay. So in general, I probably tend to use BSR1 more for free motion than BSR2, but not always, right? Okay. So let's see. I said how to secure. I think I got everything. Anyway. Okay. So you guys, I hope you have a good week. As I said, I may cancel in 2 weeks. I may cancel just because I'm going to be up to my eyeballs. Maybe I'll be ahead, but I have a feeling I won't. And but I will see you in July, regardless of whether I do another broadcast this week. And that's about it. So I hope you have a great week. Thanks for showing up and watching. Oh, if you're on my YouTube channel, please subscribe. Thank you.